The North Hunterdon-Voorhees Regional High School District Board of Education meeting for today, Tuesday, January 24th, 2023 is now called to order. In accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meeting Act, NJSA 1046, adequate notice of the meeting has been provided by submission of notice of the time, date, and location to the Star Ledger on January 11th, 2023, and the Hunterdon County Democrat on January 12th, 2023. Notice and, to the extent known, the agenda of this meeting have been posted at North Hunterdon High School and Voorhees High School, provided to the municipal clerks of Bethlehem Township, Califon Borough, the Town of Clinton, Clinton Township, Franklin Township, Glen Gardner Borough, Hampton Borough, Highbridge Borough, Lebanon Township, Tewksbury Township, and Union Township, as well as other interested parties, and posted on the district website. Fire exits are located in the directions indicated, and if alerted to fire, please move in a calm and orderly fashion to the nearest smoke-free exit. At this time, please silence all cell phones. Can we have a roll call, please?
Ms. Bonomi?
Present.
Mr. Chapman?
Here.
Ms. Crisologo?
Present.
Mr. Carbanish?
Here.
Ms. Gallo?
Here.
Ms. Hintz?
Present.
Mr. Kirschberger?
Here.
Ms. Cochran?
Here.
Mr. Mueller?
Here.
Ms. Salino?
Here.
Mr. Spanton? Ms. Fialer?
Here.
Thank you. Everyone, please rise for the flag salute. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, getting started. Can I have a motion and a second to approve agenda items 4.1 and 4.2, which are the minutes for the November 22nd meeting and the minutes from the January 23rd, the January 3rd meeting?
So moved. Second. Sorry.
You're right.
Yep.
Second.
I haven't done one in so long.
Jess and Deb. Any
Old time
discussion?
sake.
Okay, voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Motion carries. All right, we'll start with our student representatives report. From North Hunterdon, we have Danica Chakraborty and Sienna Britt.
Thank you. Good evening. So we have a few new things happening at North. Model UN, our Model United Nations Club, just had a very successful trip at our conference at Hershey Lodge. There are a lot of students who got the Conference on National Affairs honor, and they'll be going to North Carolina over the summer for a conference with students from all over the nation. And we had a lot of delegates also get the Best Country and Best Country Research Award, so that's thanks to a lot of preparation from our advisors, Mr. Kula and Mrs. Nisnik. Youth and Government just started meeting, and the advisors are Ms. Bogley and Mr. Yakulo. They'll have a similar conference around April, and hopefully we'll have the same successful results. The swim meet just had their, or not the swim meet, the girls swim team just had their final swim meet of the season today. That's why I'm a little damp. Mock Trail's first competition is on Saturday, and we're working on 2 more pep rallies with the class officers, the seniors, and a couple of other teachers. And our senior prom is planned to be on May 19th, and we're working on it being. I'm going to pass it off to Sienna.
Good evening, everyone. It feels like it's been quite a long time since I've seen all your faces. So the Diversity Club is in the process of working on a Black History Month bulletin board. Our goal as a club is to expand knowledge for the members and also for students. The class of 2023 is selling class t-shirts throughout the week. Yesterday was the start of the second semester, so students' electives and other courses switched for the remaining 2 marking periods. Lastly, junior prom tickets are on sale. That event will take place on March 11th. That's all I have to report.
Great, thank you very much. And for Voorhees, Lauren Alligood?
Yes, hi everybody. I have very similar things to say about Voorhees as North had very similar events going on. We very recently had a very belated winter pep rally that finally went on, so we got to celebrate our winter sports, who are doing pretty well so far in the season, looking to have some successful outcomes with that maybe at the next meeting. Additionally, I wanted to highlight our Student for Change Club. They recently had a co-op with Rahway High School where we sent a group of our students to Rahway sent a group of their students back to Voorhees, and the two groups of students were able to engage in activities that worked with building trust, problem solving, and learning just about one another, kind of creating that nice environment. Additionally, we had a slew of winter concerts recently. Our choirs, bands did a really fantastic job, as they always do, but it was just special for the winter time. And additionally, our SHIP program just hosted our 8th grade tours. Unanimously, the middle school said that they were very pleased with the experience, and we're looking forward to welcoming a new group of students in the fall. And I also wanted to say, on a note of school rivalry, we did have a very high-stakes basketball game between the boys basketball teams at Hunterdon-Voorhees recently, and that was really fun for everyone who attended. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sounds like great stuff going on at both schools. So I just wanted to call a tiny little audible, if there's no objection. Next up on the agenda is the presentation by Mr. Brown of the Fall 22 Strong Start Assessment Scores. But I know that as part of the Chief School Administrator's report, Rich would like to move that up a little bit next in the agenda so that we can do some recognition, some student recognition without dragging everyone through. Rich is going to be very fascinating. It's going to be a very fascinating presentation. Don't get me wrong.
You're welcome. Just thought in the interest of time, you might have homework or something like that.
Nothing against that presentation. So without objection, we'll move the Chief School Administrator's report to item 6.
Great. So we'll have student recognition first. So why don't we have Mr. Peterson from Voorhees High School?
Which is funny, because when I say time to shine, this is Caitlin Mullally. Caitlin, back in November, traveled to Rowan University to partake in the Marcus auditions. That stands for the Mid-Atlantic Regional Collegiate Audition for Theater and Dance. It is a large pre-screen audition for 40 colleges on the East Coast who have drama programs. It is essentially an audition and is common practice in performance majors due to the high volume of applicants. The audition, she had to prepare a song and 3 monologues, and audition in a large auditorium in front of hundreds of reps from individual programs. Reps will usually call back the student they want to admit and ask them to either do a formal or audition or review reviewers a reel of shows that they have been in. Caitlin was called back for 24 schools out of the 40. Mrs. Reynolds noted in this, who was the drama in charge of the drama program. Most drama programs require an audition and accept fewer than 20 students per year into their program. So to be called back by so many schools is tremendous. So, congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well done.
All right, next we'll have Dr. Cottrell from North Hunterdon.
All right, it's my pleasure to introduce 3 of the 4 members of our North Hunterdon WHAM team. So WHAM is the Warren Hunterdon Academic Meet. Shane Cooley is not with us tonight, but we do have joining us Madison Heller, Jordan Pye, and Jacob Zangel. So we're going to start with a little trivia to get you started. So these are a few of the questions that this team answered in order to win the Warren Hunterdon Academic Meet. Number 1, What European country is geographically divided into a northern mainland and southern Peloponnesus? And that answer is Greece. I'm sure you can shout them out if you know. In the 18th century, Toussaint Louverture was a leader of the independence movement in what Caribbean country? Haiti. Haiti, everyone can laugh. Haiti. And lastly, for all the math folks in here, how many different numbers are in the decimal form of the fraction 2/7? So 2 divided by 7, how many different numbers are in the fraction of that? The answer is, of course, 6. All right. So we obviously have some very, very smart students with us. It's basically a Jeopardy-style format of academic competition, and it's the Warren Hunterdon meet. So this team competed most recently against 11 other teams from other high schools in the Warren and Hunterdon area. This team is actually a 2-time champion. They won this past spring, right? Yeah, you won in the spring, and now they have one again here in the fall. So they are back-to-back winners. We are very proud of them as they compete against some of our neighboring schools. So again, we have with us here, this is Madison Heller and Jacob Zangle. It is. So far, and Jordan Pye. Shane's not with us, so.
Good job. Congratulations.
All right, thank you very much. So since we started the superintendent's report, I'll try to finish that, and then we can move on to Mr. Brunt's presentation. So for the Chief School Administrator's report, we have we have the items that are on the agenda, which, first of all, I'd like to officially congratulate our Governor Educators of the Year at North Hunterdon-Voorhees. At North Hunterdon this year, it is Dr. Carolyn Wilhelm, and at Voorhees, it is Lauren York. Dr. Wilhelm is a science teacher at North Hunterdon, and Lauren York is a special education teacher at Voorhees. We also have an educational service professional of the year, and at North Hunterdon, that is Rosemarie Zamaretta at North Hunterdon, and Elizabeth Nemeth at Voorhees. Elizabeth is a guidance counselor, and Rose is a DSP at For a report on harassment, intimidation, and bullying, we have no new items to report this month. But I would like to call for a motion and a second to affirm the determinations of the HIP incidents reported at the November 22nd, 2022 board meeting. Is there any discussion?
Need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Deb, second by Tara.
Any discussion?
On the agenda though, it says December, so I don't know if we need to strike that because we didn't have a December meeting.
The online version was updated.
Okay.
It says November.
Oh, because I'm online, it says it here.
7.3 says November.
Yes, mine 7/4.
7/4
7/4 is the monthly.
That's a monthly.
That's the monthly. 7/2.
7/3.
7.3 is what we're
Okay, thank
voting
you.
on. No problem. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Yeah, Ashley.
Yeah.
Beth and Nicole are.
Okay, thank you, Rob.
You are welcome. All right, so now we're gonna, oh, you got a few more.
So the monthly reports are there for your information as well. But I do want to mention a few other things that we've had happen recently. So we have reached the midpoint of the school year. As the first semester ended on Friday, January 20th. And as was already previously reported, course selections took place last week for the 23-24 school year. And also, as previously reported, the high schools hosted their 8th grade orientation for students and parents in the first 2 weeks of January. and we look forward to welcoming the class of 2027 officially in late August. It's hard to even say. Hunterdon County Polytech has an open house scheduled for Saturday, January 28th from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. It's a great opportunity for current sophomores and juniors to explore the career and technical offerings at Polytech for next year. The Environmental Sustainability and Engineering Academy, housed at Voorhees High School, is hosting its first STEM College and Career Fair on January 27th at 5:30 p.m. in the Voorhees main cafeteria. More information about that event is on the Voorhees website, and it's open to any students or parents who would like to attend. The plans for the Polytech project on North's campus are currently being reviewed by the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs. Approval is expected in the near future, with bids being sought from contractors as soon as possible after that, and the groundbreaking could happen as soon as April 1st. So that is the plan. In regards to concerns, I would like to just address some emails that the board received within the last few days. In regards to concerns brought to our attention about the Smart Pass system, which is a digital hall pass system we implemented this year, I want to make clear that Smart Pass was implemented with student safety and security in mind. We are not tracking student data in any way. The company for Smart Pass meets all FERPA and SIPA requirements, which we verified before implementing. The new digital ID student card that was rolled out recently in Smart Pass is completely optional for students to use, as they can still use their physical IDs, and this optional feature does not track students any further in the Smart Pass. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so now, circling back to Rich Brown for a presentation on the fall 2022 Start Strong assessment scores. Thanks, Rich.
Sure. Well, good evening, everybody. Let me share my screen. It's asking me for the pin, but it's not displaying the pin. There's one. Should I just go with that one for now? Okay. All right, well, good evening, everybody. Another month, another presentation. This time, the good news is that we are on to this school year. The previous presentations were all for last school year, so now we're on to tests that we administered this year. So tonight, we'll go over the results of the Start Strong administration, which students completed in September of 2022. There's a tremendous amount of information in these slides, so I'll go over some of it quickly, some of it, I'll spend more time on it. So although we're presenting these results today because we received the official results from the state, we have had and have acted upon the preliminary results since September. This test was designed to be administered quickly, get the results in the hands of the teachers quickly, so obviously we examined and acted upon these results months ago. The entire presentation is linked in the agenda. What I'm going to do is go over an overview of the test, give the district results, then give the school results, look at the results by subgroups, identify notable achievements, then go over the intervention strategies we're using to help students who are struggling. And at the end, I'll answer any questions that you have. So, Start Strong is not the same assessment as the NJSLA. It's much shorter, and it covers a subset of standards for the content students should have learned in a previous course. So it was designed to give educators quick results. The results are actually available as soon as students hit submit, so they could use the information to inform their instruction. Start Strong is designed to be completed in 45 to 60 minutes. It's completed on the same Pearson platform as the NJSLA and NJGPA assessments. But just for context, the ELA assessment, they have to read 2 short texts and then answer 10 questions, 10 multiple choice questions. The math assessments have 23 or 24 questions, and science has 24 or 25 questions, depending on the grade. So as I mentioned before, the assessment covers standards for content students should have learned in a previous course. For example, the ELA 9 test included questions on a subset of the ELA 8 standards. Start Strong was given to all freshmen and sophomores for ELA, all students enrolled in Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2, and all freshmen and seniors for science. So while reporting this information, the state tells us to not compare Start Strong results to NJSLA results. Start Strong is not designed to predict future success on the NJSLA. Instead, Start Strong is designed to support conversations among educators, parents, and students about support students may need at the start of the school year. So here I'm just going to read the state's message about Start Strong. The department encourages districts to clearly and prominently provide information about the context of Start Strong data, including its limitations as a result of the pandemic or other factors. We've seen from all of the standardized test results that we've gone over lately that the pandemic had a significant effect on students academically. So, we're certainly using this to inform our instruction, but students took a hit during the pandemic, just as everybody else did. It continues from the state here, as always, assessment data should be analyzed alongside other important measures of student outcomes, like benchmark assessments, teacher-created formative assessments, and attendance data to provide a more complete perspective on resources, support, and student success. So just to reiterate, it's a very short assessment. It tests students on a subset of standards. There's no writing involved. It is designed to help give teachers an idea of where students are at the start of the school year. With all of that said, most of the results were much better than this year than they were last year. The percentage of students who need less support, and the proficiency levels are a little complicated. The highest proficiency level is students who need less support. That number increased for ELA 9, Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, and Science 9. So just about all the assessments, the students who needed less support increased, which is positive. This slide just shows the number of students who completed the Start Strong assessments in our district.
I don't mean to interrupt
Sure.
you, but we can't, there's no slides over there.
So let's see if we can get that pin here. Do you want me to restart that?
Yeah.
Can you see on your computer?
I didn't know I mean, I could follow along on the computer, I just don't know what page he's on.
It looks like 7 right now.
Yes, it's slide 7 now.
Okay.
But we'll restart that. Hopefully, it'll be able to come up.
Alright.
If you see the pin pop up, just let me know. All right, thanks. Okay. So this just shows the number of students who tested this school year, about 1,150 students for ELA, about 1,425 for math, and about 1,100 for science. Okay, so on slide 8 here, the results are reported in 3 proficiency levels. More support needed, which is the lowest proficiency level, some support needed, which is in the middle, and then less support needed. That's the highest proficiency level. So on this slide, you'll see the ELA results for the district. Over 60% of the students are in the highest proficiency level, and around 20% are in the lowest proficiency level. Looking at ELA 9 then by school, you'll see the proficiency levels for ELA 9 by school were very similar, 65% in the highest level at North, 69% at Voorhees. So sticking with ELA 9, this is where we break it down by subgroups. This slide shows the proficiency level by subgroups, such as race and gender, but the next slide has the bar graph that I think it'll show it a little bit more clearly here. Let's see if this will project now. The pin's still not coming up, I'm sorry.
That's okay, I think you're on page 11.
Yeah, I'll try to remind myself to say which slide we're on.
Thank you.
Sure. All right, slide 11. So at least I stuck with it for the first slide. We'll see how long I continue. These colors will remain the same for each of the slides on the subgroups. The yellow bars show the highest proficiency level. The blue bars show the lowest proficiency level. So for ELA 9 here, you can see differences in results among subgroups with the ELA 9 assessment, with female and Asian students outperforming the district-wide averages. Going into slide 12, with ELA 10, 14% more of the students at Voorhees were in the highest proficiency level. You can see the 56 and 70, so the numbers all the way to the right there. With slide 13, again, we see differences in results among subgroups, and you'll see that more clearly on slide 14 with the color-coded bar graphs here. You can see clearly here that, again, the female and Asian students outperforming the district-wide averages with ELA 10. With slide 15, this is where we move into math. 19% of our Algebra 1 students were in the highest proficiency level. That percentage increased as the math courses progressed to 48% in geometry, you can see on the right, or if you can see that, you can see it on the right, and 68% in Algebra 2. The percentage of students in the lowest proficiency level decreased the longer the students were in our district, from 50% to 30% to 11%.
So, Rich.
Sure.
Question.
Yes.
So you said that this measures what they learned in the prior course.
Yeah.
So is Algebra 1 measuring what they learned in like pre-algebra?
In 8th grade, yeah, the 8th grade math
8th grade
standards.
math.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. But then something like Algebra 2 measured Algebra 1, and geometry measured the Math 8, or the geometry standards in Math 8. Yes?
Do we have or do you have a breakdown for the sending districts, since you're measuring essentially what the freshmen are coming to us with, so that we know where we need to emphasize
Yeah.
what districts
Yeah, we
are
get a,
struggling, which are not, and we can learn something from that?
yeah, we do get a data file, and we merge in sending districts, so we do break it down by that. And that helps especially our math and English teacher coaches to work with the sending districts on some of those standards that they struggled with. Yes. So moving into slide 16, for Algebra 1, this is, I mentioned that of all the of all the tests that we gave for Start Strong, all but 2 of them, the scores increased. I'm sorry, bless you. This is one that was just at the state average. All of the other ones were well above the state average. When we had our curriculum meeting last week, the state had not yet released the state averages. Since then they have, so we were able to compare state averages. All of the other ones were way above state averages. Algebra 1 was the state average, and we've talked about Algebra 1 where the higher performing math students would take that in 7th and 8th grade. So for Algebra 1, the results from the 2 schools were nearly identical. Slide 17, again, there's differences among the subgroups for Algebra 1, which we can better see in this bar graph here. There's a larger percentage of our Hispanic or Latino students and our students with disabilities needing more support. So we can see the blue lines higher in those areas. In slide 19, for geometry, the 2 schools performed very similarly, with 49% of the North students in the highest proficiency level compared to 46% of the Voorhees students. For the geometry subgroups, there's 2 sets of results that stand out, as we'll see here. You can see the lines that are jumping out at us there. On slide 21, a larger percentage of our Asian students were in the highest proficiency level as compared to the district-wide results, while a larger percentage of our students with disabilities were in need of more support than the district-wide average. For slide 22, with Algebra 2, a larger percentage of our Voorhees students were in the highest proficiency level, 72 to 66%. And for slide 23, not as much variation among the subgroups for Algebra 2, but with the bar graphs, we can see here that a higher percentage of our Black or African American students or students with disabilities were in need of more support than the district-wide average.
Rich, I just have
Sure.
another question.
Yes.
So on the ELA, it was clear that it was ELA 9 and 10.
Yes.
So what grades are testing under these? All 9th graders?
Well, for Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2, it's whatever course they're taking. So it could be any grade level, all grade levels.
Okay, so at 9 through 12 takes the test, not in math.
If they are in Algebra 1, Geometry, or Algebra 2,
Okay.
yes.
Do we divide, is there any way to also figure out what grade they're in when they're taking this, so we can see? Because, for example, an 11th grader in Algebra 2 might have more experience and would potentially score higher than would a a ninth grader if they were taking an algebra 2
Well,
exam
I mean,
potentially?
they're, yes, but they took the courses in middle school. Then.
Right.
Very few of our students, as first-year students, are in Algebra 2.
I know, yeah.
But yeah, we do have a data file that we can break it down. We haven't traditionally done that.
Okay.
But it's certainly something that we can do.
Great. Okay.
Sure. Moving into slide 25, so this is now moving into the science portion. So grade 9 students and grade 12 students completed the science assessment. Around half of our 9th grade students were in the middle proficiency level, with around 20% of them in the lowest and 30% of them in the highest. And a larger percentage of our seniors, 38%, were in the highest proficiency level. So looking at Science 9 here on slide 26, for grade 9 students, a larger percentage of Voorhees students were in the highest proficiency level, 33% to 28% at North Hunterdon. And then with slide 27, again with the subgroups, there are some differences, which we can see more clearly here on slide 28. The bar graph shows that a larger percentage of our Asian students were in the highest proficiency level, while a larger percentage of our students with disabilities were in the lowest proficiency level. With our 12th grade science, much higher percentage of Voorhees students were in the highest proficiency level, 52% compared to 31% of North students. And there are some differences with the subgroups again, and we can see that more clearly here on slide 31. A larger percentage of our Hispanic or Latino students, Black or African American students, and students with disabilities are in that lowest proficiency level.
So, sorry to interrupt.
That's okay.
So, for Science 12, North Hunterdon, more support needed was almost 50%.
Yes.
Like, and that seems like very, like an anomaly. Like, what, is there anything that you guys gleaned from that? Because it seems out of line with the 9th grade science and with how Voorhees.
So I will tell you that yes, it does seem out of line. Across the state, 25% of the students, 53% of the students were in that more support needed. Students, those seniors this year, took another NJSLA science assessment last year. They did much better last year than this year on that subset of standards. No instruction took place in between the times of the two tests. I mean, it was the summer. They took this right when they got back to school. It's a very hard assessment, and I mean, extremely hard. And actually, as Dr. Cottrell was talking about the WHAM questions, one activity that would be really useful for us is to look at the actual assessments. I think that's something that we should do in the curriculum committee, because it's eye-opening how incredibly challenging these assessments are. So I would like next month for us to take a look at those assessments.
And also, they're not required to take 4 years of science.
They are not
right?
required to take 4 years of
So these are
science.
students that are at a very advanced level of science as it is.
Or
right?
no
Either
science.
Or no science.
Or no science at all, right, yes.
Right.
Should these results correlate at all with the courses that we're teaching? And so would we see alarmingly low grades amongst our students based on what this is telling us? Or should it be that way, or are we,
It's
teaching
one-
easier courses than should be if this is what's expected? I mean, I'm just trying to make sense out of
Yeah,
this.
we do look at correlation between these test results and grades, course grades, final grades, or marking period grades as well. There is, this is one factor in evaluating where students are. When you look at where, for that particular test, statewide, 25% of the students were in the highest proficiency level, you start to question what's the word I'm looking for, but how much should you trust those results? I do trust the tests that our teachers create. I do trust our teachers' assessments of students a little bit more than this only multiple choice test. There's no writing involved at all. It's just multiple choice.
Question,
Sure.
because we had talked about this, to your point, a few months ago when we did the preliminary results. Do you have any information if the state is considering extending COVID funding, ESSER funds, and are they using this test as one of the considerations to say, yes, we do need to extend funding past deadlines?
At this point, the ESSER funds must be used by, well, not used by next year, must be allotted, I think, by the end of next year.
Right, so are they considering it, right, okay,
Not that we've heard, no.
okay.
And actually, they haven't committed to this test for next year either, the Start Strong assessment. Originally, they said last year was the only year it would be given because it was being done in lieu of state testing that was postponed the previous year. And then when we received the testing schedule this year, it was just on there and like, what's going on here? So at this point, they've said that they have not yet made a decision on whether or not this test will be given next year.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. So with Science 12, just to finish up, did we go over this? We did go over this one, yes. So just some notable achievements here. The majority of our students need less support. That's the highest proficiency level for ELA 9, ELA 10, and Algebra 2. Compared to our 2021 Start Strong results, the percentage of students needing less support, again, that's the highest proficiency level, increased for ELA 9, Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, and Science 9. Compared to our 2021 Start Strong results, the percentage of students needing more support, the lowest proficiency level, decreased for ELA 9, ELA 10, Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, and Science 9. The only one that didn't decrease was Science 12. So as far as our intervention strategies, obviously we have our classroom interventions. We have our extra help with our resource rooms and after school. We have both our teacher tutoring program and our online tutoring program. And for students who are struggling, we also have our response to intervention program, our RTI program. So that's everything that's in the slides. Do you have any other questions for me? All right, well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right, so now moving on to the school board president's report. First item I'll mention is that January is School Board Recognition Month in New Jersey, and we have a resolution to vote on affirming our support for school board members across the state and the work that is done in support of the educational mission of public education. So I will spare y'all from reading that long resolution, but it's attached to the agenda, and it's in recognition of the work we all do and others across the state that serve on school boards. So can I get a motion and a second to adopt resolution 012423-3?
Second.
Second by Deb. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Second, or opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Good job, school board members. All right, next, I just wanted to thank our 2023 committee members and chair people. So just to acknowledge, so Facilities, Finance, and Transportation, it's chaired by John Mielek. Student Relations and Community Relations and Student Affairs is chaired by Tara Hintz. Curriculum, Instruction, and Technology is chaired by Deb Bonomi. Personnel is chaired by Jessica Beato. And Policy and School Security is chaired by Glenn Arbenish. I am our liaison to the Hunterdon County Vocational School District. Tara, thank you for being the New Jersey School Board Association liaison. Kim, thank you for being the Hunterdon County School Board Association liaison. And Jeff is our Hunterdon County ESC liaison. So thanks everyone, and thank you all for your participation in committees. It's how we do our business, and so thank you for that. And lastly, our next meeting is February 28th at 7 p.m. here at the District Administration Office. So, speaking of school board committees, we'll now turn to our committee reports. So, I'm going in the order that I just saw them. So, John, you want to go first
Sure,
with
sure.
finance, facilities, and transportation?
Thank you. We met last Tuesday because of the holiday. I guess the first thing we talked about, kind of the outline for the budget season that we're coming into right now. We're waiting for the governor's state budget address, which will be on the 28th of February. We'll be hopefully meeting in person rather than Zoom call in early March on the 6th, the committee that is. We're looking to present a preliminary budget to the county on the 14th of March and hold our final public hearing in April 25th. So, regarding the budget, the three factors, I guess, we're held to the 2% cap unless we go out to the voters. We feel that combining using a 3-year banked cap, which is the amount that we didn't raise it to 2% for the previous 3 years, using what still can be used from that 3-year bank cap, plus the excess funding from the referendum in 2016, which we were returning to the taxpayers. Between those two items and then the 2% cap, we feel at this point will be sufficient for the budget, but not that we're going to look to max out all three of those, but considering some of the bigger drivers of our budget, that's feel comfortable we can work within those parameters. So look for more details coming committee meetings and coming monthly meetings. We also had an agenda review. One item we talked about it a little bit last month, but we're approving money for Honeywell to start, I think, let me see, that's agenda item 15-6. It's with another ESIP project. We're commencing using Honeywell again. This was a grant that we received, and this grant, it's 75% state funding from New Jersey. So we've done this twice now. The most recent one with the major projects involved the solar, but we've applied and been approved for, like I said, 75% funding. So Honeywell will start scoping out these, using our long-range facilities plan, looking at our facilities, what else needs upgrading, and they'll come up with a list of projects for this grant. And so we're starting that. You'll also see another item on the agenda. Our architect is submitting to the state application for the parking lot expansion here at North Hunterdon High School. And other than that, and then finally we did talk, I know it's a topic on a lot of people's minds, transportation, busing. It's a severe problem. It's not just our district or our state, it's a nationwide problem. It was a problem before COVID, it's gotten even worse now. The crunch time seems to spill over. It's a struggle to fill the regular routes, just getting the children to school and home, but where the real pinch occurs is some of the athletic runs, and this was, it's been a problem, it's going to continue to be a problem. We're looking, trying to look outside of the box and solve some of these. So I don't have any great news as far as what we can do. I know we're going to encourage some of the sending districts to really fine-tune, allow people to opt out of transportation. Maybe we can, because we're all in this together. We all utilize the same buses, whether it's our route or then they go off to another route. But if some of these runs have very few children on the buses, and if we can just keep shrinking those empty buses, it'll alleviate some of the demand. So it's just something that's going to be on our agenda every month going forward. It's a problem. So that's all I have. Anybody have questions? Thank you.
Thanks, John. All right, next up is Community Relations and Student Affairs. Tara?
Thank you. Our committee met on January 19th virtually. All of our members were present, which was Beth Petran, Shelley Cruzalogo, Dan Span, and myself. And our administrators were Dr. Burgess and Maris Magala. The first agenda item is one that we're going to take action on tonight. So it's for the 14.1, and it is the proposal to bring boys ice hockey to the district. I don't know if you've all seen the briefing that was created by both athletic directors, Alexa and Brian Bauman, Alexa Frigoletti and Brian Bauman. It was an outstanding briefing. So it kind of outlines everything, but the current status is that the North Hunterdon-Voorhees district does not offer ice hockey as a sports opportunity. Ice hockey is a sanctioned NJSIAA sport, and then after careful data collection was conducted by the community, it was clear that there was an abundance of student interest at both Voorhees and North. I don't know who's been on the board since then. On April 27th of 2021, the North Hunterdon-Voorhees Hockey Corporation presented to the superintendent their findings, which showed that there was a vast amount of district-wide interest. So this has been in the works since April of 21. The goal was to establish an ice hockey co-op team between both North Hunterdon and Voorhees. And if we are able to achieve this goal, the partnership both between the North Hunterdon-Voorhees potential players, we will have to have it approved due to the NJSIAA, but that'll be our next step if we approve the program. The costs were broken down, so there is a cost. Once the presentation was put forth in our meeting, there were a couple questions that were expressed by some of our members. One of them was that insurance, and it's a high-risk sport, so that was brought forth, but Dr. Burgess reached out and there would not be any increase to our liability insurance. The other cost was between years 1 and 2 and 3. It's the reconditioning costs, which would not exceed $1,500 in the first 1 and 2 years, the same thing in 3. Offset would be by parent funding and booster club raising funds. So the other cost would be hiring a coach and an assistant coach, and those numbers are in the proposal, which would be based on collective bargaining agreements. So the board will be voting tonight, and was agreed upon after our concerns that the committee is supporting the adding ice hockey team to our offerings for all of our students. And it's kind of exciting that it'd be between the two schools. So. And then the other item that was presented was one of our committee members brought that the time of our graduation ceremonies, Shelley had expressed concern that the ceremonies are at the same time, and this was new. It happened, 2019 was the first year they were put at the same time, and then we didn't have a 2020. But the concern was there was a single parent that had students at both North and Voorhees, and last year missed one of their children's graduations. And there was other items that were brought up that were concerned, not the whole board being solidified as a, whole board in a whole district wouldn't be able to attend both. So we left it at that the superintendent and the principals will discuss it. And this year it's set in stone, and Dr. Burgess reached out, and there's not any conflict between one family having students this year's graduation. We don't know about other years because it's a manual process to look at it. But they'll bring it back to them, and then they'll bring it to us going forward to see if we can change calendar going 24 on. And that was it. Any questions?
I did just have go ahead. Just a follow-up question on the agenda item 1. We've confirmed that it's $1,500 total for the year.
$1,500 total just for reconditioning costs of helmets.
Okay.
And then those other items that are listed there are costs in addition to that $1,500, but it's not. It's $1,500 total for reconditioning of helmets.
Okay.
Isn't it roughly 50,000 a year? It says in the slide.
I'm sorry, say that again?
In the presentation slide, that was like another attachment, said roughly 50,000 a year.
So that's, we had a lot of conversation about that too, because that includes rink cost, like the skating rink costs.
That would be the end cost, when we absorb all of the costs, and that would be over a 5-year process.
Right, so that means that, for example, next year when and if this is approved, that the parents would have to raise that money in order to have the activity at whichever rate. I think they said it was Flemington.
So the total cost of the school for 1 year is $1,500 total?
No, it's $1,500 for reconditioning costs, plus the uniforms, pucks, some incidentals like that, and then the coaches, assistant coach and head coach. I think those were those.
It's like, isn't it like 12,000 a year? It's 1,200 a month, 12,000
Yeah, I think
over a
it's
5-year period.
altogether, because there's only one head and one assistant.
Yeah.
And then that's for the first 2 years, and then the third year it goes up a little bit, fourth year it goes up a little bit, and then by fifth year it goes over most of the costs. As long as it doesn't exceed any other sports that we offer at a per pupil rate. So if it exceeds the per pupil rate of our highest, our most expensive sport, then those costs are being taken up by the club.
Tonight is step one, right? And step two is then to put a formal agreement in to create a co-op for this? Is that what's happening?
Correct.
So can I ask, what happens if the hockey team starts and, each year the increments are going up, and then it's further enough down the line where the initial families who had that motivation to get it in and to do the fundraising go away, and then the families 5, 8 years down the road have to absorb the difference, and they don't want to,
So
would the sport just go away?
That was the
Because-
original concern, because the original idea was that the parents would subsidize this forever. The reality of it is, we know 5 years from now, that's why we've got a 5-year window. The parents, 4 years from now, will still be here, in the 5th year.
Right.
The board would be absorbing most of the costs at that point, because we can't guarantee that the parents would be still supporting that
Yeah.
pay to play kind of model.
And
Which
then
is what happened at Westfield.
Yeah, and then when you add in the rink costs, is it still within that amount that we're not spending more for that sport versus, I'm sure we spend a lot of money on football, so that's, but you see
Yeah,
what I'm
football
saying?
has a lot of students too. There's other sports,
Yeah,
that are expensive because there's not a lot of students, and there's
Right.
some gymnastics as an example.
right, right.
Actually, she brings up a good point. Football, to my feeling, is that they raise the most money at their events, because you have to pay to get in to see a football game. You have that snack stand, there's things that the football teams do that no one else does. Does the hockey team, will they have any of that to help?
I don't know, because this isn't.
Well, the boosters, every sport, when you're in the part of the booster, every sport, you alternate. So if you're a football parent, you will work the basketball season. Everybody works they all have to do some kind of fundraising. Cheerleading, Shelley, you just.
No, I'm not talking about fundraising, because all the sports do that. I'm talking about the pay to get in to see the game, and then that snack
Well, you
stand.
gotta do that cheerleading, there's pay to get in, basketball, there's, all of it's to pay to get in.
To see the sport.
So it's just the field sports outside that you don't have to?
Yeah, yeah, like.
Field hockey, lacrosse, soccer,
yeah,
none of
you
those.
don't have to get those.
Yeah.
And, but basketball, wrestling, football.
Track, none of them, yeah.
And some of the cheer programs.
So does anybody know who did the field, the ice hockey, any other schools, do they charge people to come into the games?
I don't know.
Got it, okay. They do?
We did, okay, thank you.
Question, Tara, I didn't read in here, but you mentioned briefly this is boys hockey. It doesn't say here anywhere that it's boys hockey. Is it restricted to boys?
I believe it's called program.
Okay, go ahead, yeah, no, I just saw it, yeah, so yeah, I guess it would be ice hockey.
I'm sure the co-op means between 40s and.
That's right.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's co-op and co-ed.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right.
All right.
Yeah, no, it's just ice hockey, so yeah, it would be open to all ice hockey players.
Okay.
And then with the approval with NJSIA would be their approval that we could participate in this, right? That's the next step, like.
Yeah, we don't anticipate any problems with that.
Yeah.
Once the board approves the program, as a board sponsor event or program, then it will go to NJSIA with the proposal to create a co-op between the two schools. So just look at school numbers, make sure that we're not trying to get an advantage over other.
And I guess that was it, so that's on our 14.1 today.
Thank you, Tara.
You're welcome.
All right, next up is curriculum, instruction, and technology. Deb.
The curriculum committee met on January 18th virtually, and we had 4 items or 4 buckets that we discussed. The first was the board agenda items. We discussed the presentation that Mr. Brown just did on the Start Strong assessment. Part of that discussion a little bit further for us was, I think John had asked, just that the articulation meetings and the disconnect between the sending district and us, and how we're still focusing on that as a administration. The other agenda items that we discuss are 12.1 through 12.4, which included a proposal for the Computer Science Club at North Hunterdon High School. Very exciting. It's a volunteer position this year, as is our process. If it goes well and it's successful, it will become a paid position next year, and it will be obviously replacing a paid position in a club that is not drawing the interest. So anticipate that if it goes forward. We talked about the out-of-district tuition, which we are receiving for 8th grade students who would come to us next year, transitioning to the high school sooner. We discussed when we have students that need a psychiatric evaluation, what our current challenges are with the current mental health system that we have available to us today. And Mr. Vendor is going to be and has been looking at alternative vendors and reaching out to other school districts to see what, who they're using and what successes are they having. So the conclusion is that the committee does support agenda items 12.1 and 12 through 12.4. The second bucket we discussed was our common assessments as part of the framework to support our academic achievement. The administration and the schools put together, and they are developing something new. It's a common assessment within the schools for English, math, science, social studies, and world language. These common assessments that they're creating are going to help to see how students will perform on state standardized tests. So we've never done something like this before. We're taking a step back to support the students in these standardized tests. The administrators completed the first of 2-part training on common assessments last week, and the second session will be next week. Anticipate that in May, the curriculum hours on the board agenda will be for the summer. We'll be voting on that. So anticipate that there may be an increase in some of the summer hours, curriculum hours, so that they can continue working on this framework. So just a little heads up on that. So that's the only action item, I'll remind you, but just to remember that we did discuss it. The third bucket that we talked about, we did our monthly data analysis, and this month we talked about first marking period grades in North Hunterdon and Voorhees. I would like to note that these reports that we went over in the committee, they were run as soon as the marking period ended, and there were a lot of if somebody didn't hand in a project and it was a major thing, they automatically get an F, and even though the F isn't accurate. So the students do have time to resubmit or submit their projects, their tests, etc., if they were out for any reason. So what we looked at was the first run report, and Mr. Brown is going to be running this report again and showing it to us. Overall, we saw that the number of failures is down from our 2020 to 2021 year. This year, first marking period grade failures was 1.15%, where that high during COVID was 2.09%. So we have come down, and again, that 1.15 is not accurate 100%. We anticipated being lower. There are multiple supports for students that we've talked about who are either failing, including tutoring and our RTI program, our response to intervention. A suggestion in the committee was proposed that we not only always just look at failing grades, but we also start looking at the opposite end of the spectrum and the high honor roll. And are we seeing more children going into the high honor roll, or are we seeing a slip in that? So we're going to start looking at that as well in this data analysis. And then the other part of the data analysis was the percentage of students with disabilities in the district. It has remained fairly consistent at 13 to 15%, and that is within line with state and national averages. So that was that. And then the last thing we talked about was, it has come up a few times about the panorama survey. North Hunterdon-Voorhees, as in a previous meeting, we decided not to use that survey this year. We are using, for our climate survey, it will be done through the New Jersey School Climate Improvement through Rutgers, which is free. And any payment that was made after was because we had a contract already prior in place, and we legally could not get out of making that payment. So that was our committee. Any questions? How was that, Brian?
All right, thank you. Any questions?
Are they tracking how many students are utilizing the free tutoring program?
Yeah, we had actually, we reported on that. I know I have it in here. We reported on it 2 months ago? 2 months ago? Yeah, they're tracking it. They know how many students are using it, how many students are using it more than once. Like there was detailed analysis on that.
We wonder, after going through the tutoring, if those students' grades are improving.
Well, the grades are definitely, to your point, the grades are definitely improving.
Yeah.
And even like the presentation that Mr. Brome gave, like it was so reassuring to see the difference in just one, like last year was their first full year back at school. And look at the difference between last fall's and this fall's results, which are great. And you're right, the tutoring's happening. Yeah. And I also remember from that presentation that this, they're like surveying or asking the students, and the students' feedback on that was fantastic. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Next up is the Personnel Committee. Jess.
So the Personnel Committee met on January 18th at 6:30 virtually. All the members were in attendance, and we discussed the personnel agenda.
All right, as expected. All right, last, policy and school security. Len.
So policy met on January 19th, which we scheduled for the 17th, all members were present. So there are a number of first readings up for your review. We called out one that bylaw 161 was for a first reading in November. It's back as a first reading because subsequent to that stress has been made as a substantial change, right? So we felt we should be back up for the first reading. Other than that, everything in the first reading is from stress estimate changes. There are two policies up to be abolished. Both are code-related. 164811 was based on a new NHV BOE guideline for the 21-22 school year, so they're no longer relevant. And 164813 was based on Executive Order 253, which the governor has since rescinded, so both are no longer relevant. So both of those were the group recommended proceeding with those. And there's a number of second readings, excuse me. The one that we particularly talked about was policy 141, which was a result of the 2020 census, which required that the county superintendent recalculate or reevaluate each board member's weighted seating. There was a request to determine how that is done, so we obtained the formula, the administration recalculated it, and confirmed that the numbers are correct. So everything stayed the same, except Bethlehem Township, Hampton Borough went from 1.3 to 1.2. And again, that was, we confirmed that by the formula they gave us, the administration did. There was also some conversation about whether we should be tabling this with respect to Bloomsbury, and that's being that still speculative on how they come about. We'll better to address that when and if that happens. So again, the group recommended to proceed with that. And then there was just one request that we'll consider in future meetings so that you understand potentially how some of these changes come about, right? So a lot of them from Strauss Esme. Maybe provide a meeting for which you, when you see these on the agenda, you understand which came from Strauss Esme and which maybe didn't come from that source. So and that we'll discuss in future policy meetings.
Thank you. Any questions for Glenn?
I do have on policy 0152, the board officers, the second paragraph of it, when it speaks about creating a nominating committee. My concern is that the lack of transparency in that portion of 0152. I don't know of any other Hunterdon County school that forms a nominating committee and then meets out of the public view. Everyone conducts their nominations at the reorg meeting live for everyone, so it's transparent. And also, I feel it actually excludes the new board members coming in. Like, it totally excludes them from the process, which I don't think is fair, right? Because that's their first order of business is, voting on a president and vice president of the board. So I'm just not.
So, I don't know, so are you recommending that?
So I would like to recommend that we review that policy and discuss it more in detail.
In committee?
And having to do with that nomination committee, yeah.
She did bring up a good point on this. When we've done it in the past, board members who are leaving put in their recommendations. I mean, not all of them have done it, but they've done it in the past. So technically, their recommendations years before, this year the two leaving didn't, but I know years before they did. So that just makes it, they're not going to be a board member in the upcoming year on their recommendations.
So I actually wanted to bring up this policy as well, if you can add, from a transparency standpoint, my request would be if we keep the committee, that every other year that I've been on the board, except this year, the chair of the committee shared the spreadsheet with the board members ahead of time, so we all knew. And I felt like this time coming in, a few of us were like, well, what's happening? And Jess even asked, like, well, what was the vote? So like that helped from a transparency, sharing that. So could that be, that's not part of the policy, but could that be added to, like, if we are going to keep it, then part of the policy is that that spreadsheet has to be shared ahead of time, and it could be shared with the new board members, right? Because that's like, what's so confidential?
I don't know, as long as I've been on the board, the nomination committee has never shared that information.
So this was my third year, and the previous two, Tom Rawls shared it. That was my first year ever being exposed to it, and whoever was the curriculum chair sent it in an email in advance as well.
Well, how about this as a recommendation? Glenn, I'm looking at what's in 0152 and what's changing. And this feels like sort of just your basic Strauss Esme, changing, language for the sake of changing language. Why don't we I don't see a problem either way. We can approve it and then take it up, get the new Strauss Esme approved language in the current policy, and then retake it up in policy committee to look at what is a kind of a substantial conversation around, the idea of a nominating committee and do we support it as a board, and if we do, then how is it going to be implemented?
So I was going to suggest we just approve this and then
take up the idea of.
As an item right, our next policy meeting to discuss potentially.
I have a question on that. Why would we approve it and then revise it. What is the benefit of a nominating committee compared to just having a reorg meeting with new board members that come on to also be part of the nominating? Because the nominating committee is done prior. So what would be the benefit of having a committee or not having a committee? Because at our reorg meeting, didn't somebody make a motion that wasn't on the committee, on the recommendation? So what would be the pros and cons of both?
And I think that's a that's a
Perfect
great
discussion.
conversation to have, and like, I think that's a reasonable points that are being made. So the only thing I'm throwing out there is, so we regularly like take policy changes from our policy advisor, Strauss Esme, that is just like they're cleaning up language for one reason or another based on precedent that's out there from other, legal recommendations, whatever. Like, so we're just making, we regularly make what I would call inconsequential changes to the policy language as a matter of course, right? And then, so I think that currently what's in 0152 is that those changes are changing, him or her to them and the full board to all of the board members, like it's stuff like that. So I guess my thinking is that Strauss Esme is making those recommendations for a reason, right? We pay them to be our advisor, right? And so, like, if we accept and vote to accept those changes, then we have a clean policy as far as Strauss Esme is concerned. And then, next month, we take up the idea of the nominating committee, because we don't actually need to use that part of the policy until at the end of the year. So we've got, if we take it up right away, we got plenty of time, and if we approve the policy as written tonight, then we get a clean policy in place as far as Strauss Esme is concerned. I guess that's my recommendation.
I think it's a good recommendation, but the bottom line is to be transparent all the way. And the nominating committee doesn't make it fully transparent, because as Deb and Jeff said, they weren't really.
Well, that'll come up in
In the
committee, and
next
then
policy.
the recommendation will come to the board, and then we can have this larger discussion on the merits of.
So we can discuss the policy, but we need to elect new president and vice president in January, right? When you also swear new board members in. So technically, if we kept the committee, we couldn't allow the new board members to take part in it. Participate, right? I don't know.
Right.
But
Truth.
anyways, let's talk about this one.
Okay, any other discussion on the policy committee report that Glenn made? Okay. Tara, do you have anything from the NJSBA?
No, June
All right. Kim, anything from Hunterdon County?
I have a bunch, but I'm not going to weigh you down. I will just tell you that, and Maren was there, there was a few board members there. We had a communication tips and strategies, website development, so forth. It was a great presentation. I will forward it to the board. We had a legislation update. It was hefty, so I will forward all those to the board. But one thing I will mention is we have the unsung heroes again, and I know that was sent to Mr. Bender. Did you guys, I think Edmund received it? We have the nominations for the unsung heroes again. So it's North Hunterdon and Voorhees. They're still waiting, but it's plenty of time. That needs to be in by Thursday, February 16th, the submission. So Mr. Bender should have gotten that. If he hasn't, just to let me know. And then on Thursday, March 16th, the Hunterdon County SBA Unsung Heroes, the student recognition ceremony will take place at that point at J.P. Case Middle School, and board members are invited. Thursday, April 27th, spring SBA meeting, celebrations, elections at Hunterdon County Teacher of the Year, and that will be in person. That's at the Mountain View Chalet, Asbury. That's all I have to report out.
All right, thank you, Kim.
The delegate, is now the time that I can ask something, or shall you wait for new business?
No, got it.
With the delegates, the NJSBA sends delegates, so I'm not sure if you're getting it. They send you the, Tara, you're the delegate, right, this year? They send what's going to be voted on in your session at least a month in advance. And it's supposed to be so that you come to the board with that, find it, like have us vote, and then you bring that vote. And we've never done that before, so just asking if we can implement that this year.
Of course, yeah, and they'll send a hard copy and digital, so.
Great,
I'll do that month before the June one.
great, thank you.
Okay. So now we are moving on to our opportunity for public comment. During this portion of the meeting, the public is invited to address the school board with questions or comments. The public is requested to sign the register provided for this purpose and to state their name, municipality of residence, group affiliation if applicable, and direct their comment to the school board president. While all comments will be considered and a response will be forthcoming if and when appropriate, school board members will not respond to the speakers at the time of their appearance. The public comment period will be a maximum of 30 minutes in length unless there are unusual circumstances, and those appearing will be allocated 3 minutes to speak, and no one will be permitted to speak twice until those that have not yet had an opportunity to speak have had a turn. In addition, we did have a couple of letters that were sent in and asked to be read into public comment. And my bad, I responded and said, sure, we'll read them, but I was corrected that that was we will read emails and letters that are submitted was an accommodation for when we were doing these meetings virtually. So because I said we'll do it today, but I just want to reminding everyone that in the future, public comment is when we're meeting here, public comment is for public comment. You can submit a letter that we will, the board will all receive and it will be part of the record, but we're not going to, like, going forward, we won't be reading emails that are submitted. Okay, so just clarifying my mistake. Okay, first up, Sarah. Right. Name and address. And
Sarah Varga, Lebanon Township. You guys already know me, so, but that pen doesn't work. So I wanted to wish you all a happy new year, a happy lunar new year that just passed on Sunday. Had a lot of good dim sum that day, so hope you guys did too. So I just wanted to say, I hope you guys had a good holiday. I wanted to thank Rich Brown for his awesome presentation. It had graphs in it, guys. You're welcome. Thank you for listening to my feedback. I really do appreciate it. And it made me look forward to your next one. I'm really excited now. Data can be cool, guys. I wanted to welcome Nicole and Beth. Beth, I think you're asking a lot of questions, which is good because you're replacing Roger. So, and he asked a bunch of questions. So, off of Rich's presentation, I did have some questions. So, in regards to science, I think that science is very variable. You got chemistry, bio, and physics. And so my question in regards to the content in that test would be, does that cover all three of those for grade 12? Because reasonably you guys would have taken all three of those courses, but that's super difficult when you're comparing to, say, math or English, where those are kind of set standards. Like with math, you got Algebra 1. Everybody knows what's in Algebra 1. Sorry, guys. So, I don't know how that works. Just gonna put that there. And with geometry, everybody knows what's in geometry. It's kind of like an easier set, whereas with chemistry, biology, and physics, there's a lot of stuff going on there. So, I'd like to think that might be playing a role into why the grade 12 is a little bit lower. in the data. So I would just ask that question and feedback for that. But overall, that's all I got for you guys. I hope you have a great year. I hope we get to keep on seeing you guys do good work and supporting kids and everything like that. So awesome. See you guys.
Hi, Lana Brennan, Clinton Township. I just wanted to do a real quick clarification with the sporting and the fundraising. I'm the VP of the Booster Club at North Hunterdon. The teams the Booster Club runs the Snack Shack outdoor as well as indoor. Teams can work for it to earn funds for their teams. About $100 or there's a ratio, or not ratio, there's a formula that we use to help them. They don't get a percent or anything, it's a set thing. And the ticket sales does not go through us, and it doesn't go to those teams. And it could go. I don't know where those funds go. I know the school collects the ticketing, and it could go towards their uniforms, etc. But it's not going to their fundraising fund that they use to put it towards what they're using. So I just wanted to clarify that. My pen doesn't work. So. That's a lot of information. So,
Can you restate your name? I'm sorry.
Lana Brennan.
Thank you.
So, if you have any questions, feel free. You can. Have a good one.
My name is Philip Traeger. I was just wondering whether anyone has thought about the issue of contracting for time at the rinks. Ice hockey is one of the few sports where the schools themselves don't have any actual places for these sports, and they have to contract with the ice hockey, with the ice rinks. There are usually very few rinks around, and schools are not the only ones that use the rinks. There are figure skating schools, there are hockey clubs, and one of the things that I know happen is that some of the adult clubs have to play hockey at 10 o'clock at night, maybe 11 o'clock at night. And while that's okay for people who come home from work, have dinner, and go out and play some hockey, it's not appropriate for high school students to be out at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night playing hockey. So I just wanted to bring that up as something that ought to be thought about before you approve an ice hockey program without a contract with a rink and a specified time for when the actual matches can be played. The other question I had was on the education survey. It seems that there's only a single test given for each of the disciplines at each of the grade levels. And yet, all of the classes are actually graded. There's a CP grade for the class, and there's an honors grade for the class, and there's an AP grade. And it seems to me it's pretty hard unless you have a breakdown as who's taking what test within the individual schools as to really get a gauge of how well the students are really doing, because the test is probably geared to a CP grade, maybe. Maybe they edge it upwards a little bit towards halfway between honors and a CP grade. And it places the CP students at a major disadvantage to actually performing well on the test. I just wanted to bring that up as something to maintain decent data integrity, because it's hard to compare apples and oranges, and that's really what's being done with this test. So when kids get their grades back, the kids who are in a CP grade may be placed at a basically disadvantage and it's not really conducive to generating a little bit of self-esteem, because those are the students that need to be motivated the most, I think. That pen didn't write. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Daryl Isherwood. I live in Annandale. I represent the North Hunterdon-Voorhees Hockey Corporation. So we are the ones who have been working, on our part, we've been working for several years, and then more recently working with the administration on bringing hockey to the community, to the high schools. So I just wanted to, a couple of different things I've heard, but I wanted to make sure that I answered the gentleman's point, because it's a good one. We have engaged with a rink already. We have a proposed contract. Ice times are after school, so we're not looking at, he's right, I mean, some of these men's leagues play at midnight. Ours will not be that. We have already engaged with Flemington, allergies, with Flemington Ice Arena, which is right up the road, and our ice times, it's not solidified yet, but it will be after school. Also, in terms of the cost, our group has been at this for close to 4 years now. We've got people that have kids ranging in age from 8 to 16. So the majority of us have kids either in high school or entering high school, so yes, there's possibly, you know, a new group that will take over, but there's a lot of continuity that we'll maintain with that group, because they will continue on when their younger kids come up. We've also been recruiting to bring in other parents to help with the fundraising effort. So we've been doing this a while, and we think we've got a good proposal. So I hope that you guys will support it tonight. You'll make a lot of hockey players very happy. And as I think you saw in the proposal that we brought to the superintendent back in April, I think it was, there are roughly 85 to 90 families representing over 100 kids that play ice hockey in our community. So, and it's not that this is the be-all, end-all, but I will tell you this. We had a middle school program that we initiated last year. Our team won it, and we beat Ridge, who 2 days before their high school team won the state finals. So we beat them in the middle school finals a couple days ago. Thank you. I'm here if anybody has any questions on it, too. There's a bunch of us here that are happy to answer.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for your time tonight. My name is Stephanie Politi. I'm a Clinton resident.
I'm sorry, can you say your name again?
Stephanie Politi. Stefanie Politi. My purpose in coming tonight is to request that there is a streamlining of the transcript sending process during college applications. I have been in touch with the superintendent and with the guidance department, including Mike Scorsha, and my child's personal guidance counselor. Just a very brief history for you so you know where I'm coming from. My son suffered a brain injury in October of 2020. Along with COVID and the complications related to that, my student had a very difficult time both with learning and with online in combination. He went through a lot of rehab. We got him back to the point where he could actually apply to colleges and consider it. He was an above average student beforehand. His grades dropped severely. He's rehabbed back to now applying to schools. Sorry. Our guidance counselor was very much involved in the process of having accommodations for him. And he took a lot of incomplete sophomore year. And to not make this a very long emotional story, his transcript was basically incomplete at that time. They entered all his grades when he did all the makeup work, but unfortunately what happened is that the guidance department sent all of the wrong transcripts to every school he applied to. So this involved, I should give you a little bit more history. On a personal level, I hired a private college advisor because my son had medical issues. I also did that for some other personal reasons, and I would never have discovered that the wrong transcripts had been sent to his colleges had it not been for my private advisor, who called a school that my son had been rejected to, and then found out from the admissions department that the wrong transcript had been sent. This has since happened at multiple schools where I have now had to go back through the process with the guidance department of now having them recontact all of the schools my son has applied to ensure that they've evaluated the proper materials in his application to make a determination based on whether he's being accepted or not. So we have had rejections reversed, and now I do not have any faith in the rejections that stand that they've been properly evaluated. I'm assured by the guidance department that the process has been followed where the guidance department has then personally contacted the admissions representatives for these schools where the rejections have taken place and talked to them about whether the right things are being considered. So I really just stand here to tell you that this has been a very long, difficult, and emotional process to even get my son to this point, and now we don't have any faith in the actual process where he's had this rite of passage has been taken from him, essentially. The guidance department has been working with us to try and right the wrong. They've been following up, but I would strongly suggest that this process is closely looked at. My son's transcript should have been flagged as a special case to begin with because he took incompletes for head injury. I don't doubt that maybe some of this happened to some of the students who took incompletes during COVID or for whatever other reasons happened. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we have a couple of emails to read, so fire away.
The first one is Carolyn Ledinko, 12 City Road, 12 City School Road, North Hunterdon-Voorhees Board of Ed. North Hunterdon-Voorhees use of technology provides many benefits to students, parents, and school. With benefit comes risk. I have major concerns about the services North Hunterdon-Voorhees receives and the contract North Hunterdon-Voorhees signed with Smart Pass Digital Hall Pass Company. When the school implemented new digital hall pass services last fall, parents were not informed, and to my knowledge, the board was not informed either. Many students and parents expressed concerns over the past 5 months about a digital student tracking system that creates a permanent visible record of any student activity during the school day. I was concerned last fall about the security of SmartPass, as it was a company I was not familiar with. I reached out to SmartPass last November asking about the privacy policies and security safeguards. I never received a response. Last Thursday, all North Hunterdon-Voorhees students received an email from North Hunterdon-Voorhees Tech Department informing them that North Hunterdon-Voorhees added new services to the SmartPass contract, and now student IDs are digitally accessed through the SmartPass platform. The email encouraged students to download the SmartPass app on their personal phones. SmartPass's privacy policy explicitly states that users assume the risk of security breaches and all consequences of them. Security breaches run rampant with ed tech companies such as SmartPass. Monroe Township School District in New Jersey just had to close school for at least 3 days because of a data breach involving students' private information, such as the information North Hunterdon-Voorhees provided to SmartPass.
Students are not legally allowed to authorize disclosure of their student records per FERPA. Students certainly are not able to consent to a third party's access to their private information, much less assume the risk of their security breaches. I am asking North Hunterdon Voorhees Board of Ed to please review security practices and privacy policies of North Hunterdon-Voorhees contract with SmartPass to ensure our students' private information stays private and secure. That's the first email. The next one is from Clinton Township resident Christopher Stadolis. Just days ago, I heard about the implementation of a digital ID. I have issues with this and have questions that I'd like answers to. First, once again, school officials put the program in place without even notifying parents. Parents were not notified prior to rolling out of SmartPass for students to use when going to the bathroom, and now we're not contacted about this program, which appears to affect students everywhere they go. This further exemplifies the intentional lack of transparency by the administration. Parents are notified about so many things from your communications department, but it seems that when it's something that you know will be controversial, you withhold communicating it to us. This is unacceptable and must change. Since you have not shared this with parents, I can only speak to what I know / believe. I am not okay with my child downloading an app on his personal phone that enables the school to track his every move. Is this mandatory? Was the communication sent to students framed in a way to make it appear as if students are required to download the app? I take great issue with the school allowing minors to give consent to an app that states, quote, users, minor children, assume the risk of security breaches and all consequences resulting from them, end quote. Minor students are not legally allowed to request their own student records, yet are being allowed to authorize disclosure of their personal information to a third party. Their personal information is protected by FERPA, Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. I believe this program, without parental consent, violates this law. Unlike the Smart Hall Pass, this program not tracks students everywhere in school. Will it track them when out of school? Since minors need parental consent for so many things in life, due to the fact that a parent would typically make better choices for the well-being of their child, I also feel this tracking system is a violation of the Fourth Amendment, similar to when the NSA violated citizens' rights by intercepting all of their emails and phone calls. You may feel this program doesn't violate the Fourth Amendment because consent is being given by minors, but minors don't fully understand what they're consenting to and the harm that can come from it. This would be no different than a minor consenting to have sex with an adult. A minor giving consent does not absolve the adult of violating the law. I believe any rational person would agree this digital ID program, the way this program is set up, infringes upon the rights and privacy of students. My additional concerns are, what do you know about this company? The company plans to be based out of California, yet I see the headquarters appears to be based and registered in Pennsylvania, out of one of the owner's homes. On LinkedIn, they have 18 employees and only 5 reside in the United States, while the remaining employees appear to live in Mexico. Lack of parental consent even for a minor student to agree to this tracking device, and what I believe to be violations of the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act and the Fourth Amendment of the United States Constitution, make this digital ID something that this board should vote no on when voting on whether or not to read this contract. Kind regards, Christopher Stadolis.
All right. Seeing no further public comment, we will close the public comment and move on to our next agenda item, which is agenda items 12.1 through 15.16. Need a motion for approval of 12.1 through 15.16.
So moved.
Motion by Kim, and a second.
A second. Before you do that, since all these will be either approved or denied as in their entirety, can we separate any of them out?
If you want to vote no for anything.
So you can vote. So I don't know if you want to clarify as the board attorney, but you can vote no on individual line items.
Okay.
So who was the second?
No, I didn't hear for the second one.
I'll do second.
That is correct. So yeah, so there being, it's a motion for approval on all of them. We can So it's curriculum, instruction and technology, policy, student activities, finance, facilities, and transportation.
So,
That's where it is. Any discussion? All right.
I would really like to bring up that regarding the smart class, that is in the bills, the payment of $9,650. I just wanted to, after further research today on that, it did specify that the student data does go to Google Cloud, which when some company can be sold, that student data is sold to the company, and then that company can decide they want to do it. So whether smart class is doing it or not, they are getting hacked. And we aren't 100% sure if they did go through, they do the privacy and the agreement, did go through it, and it did specify that, it did specify that it went to the Google Cloud, as I said. So Google Cloud is a third party. When we looked and we investigated the company, they never responded, and they claimed that they did have a third party, but they used third party. So the fact of lack of transparency with them is making me a little bit nervous about it. The digital thing that was downloaded on their phones, kids are just going to they're not going to know, make the right decisions. And we don't, we really just don't know when they leave school if they're on track. We can't do that.
Just because we can't prove they're not, doesn't mean they are.
But what happens?
And how do we know we can't prove they're not?
There's no GPS or.
There's no GPS tracker on it. How do you know that they?
It's not tracking, tracking time, maybe just time
We're discussing
Single line item.
single line.
Can I just ask, because there's no GPS, if they leave one place, do they have to scan it in at other places, or how do you know that they reached that other location? Like, do they scan their IDs, or like, how do you know if they leave one place to the other? Is it not GPS, but it's the phone that, like they ported it, or is?
We've been doing this for years, students in the classroom.
Right.
They scan anywhere they go.
Their car,
Yeah.
yeah.
Library, they go, wherever they go. Scan their car. With smart
So
glasses.
it has to be scanned, it's not like it's just they have to do something when they reach the end location.
This is just in lieu of their student.
Good question.
But I mean, I want to know, when you do the technology, is there a place for them to scan it, so they can know they're in that?
No, there's not a way to scan that. So what it does is it times them, so there's something that doesn't come back at a certain amount of time, and then we can send them over, so you can see if they're in trouble. Medical emergency, in the bathroom,
So technically, they say they're going someplace, they can come back in X amount of time, we don't really know where they're going anyway. Like, they don't have an endpoint check-in. I'm just trying to figure out the purpose.
If you go to a different location like the library or nurse, there's an endpoint check.
There is.
The bathroom.
So,
May I add a point of legality, and the board attorney is here with us. When the school district enters into the agreement through the purchase order process, the purchase order is considered a legally binding contract. So if the board tonight votes no to pay the bill, you are possibly putting yourself in a situation where it could be litigated and you'll be forced to pay the bill. And just want to know the legalities of purchase order, and I also want to know the legalities of the school district, policy and regulation, and then your school business administrator has been given the authority, as long as that is under the threshold, to enter into these agreements on behalf of the board.
And that's correct, if I could jump in briefly, certainly when we're renewing a contract, that can be an issue, something that we can discuss, but by determining not to pay a certain amount, that could suffer, you could suffer damages by deciding not to do that, that could be a breach.
and that's a good clarification, so thank you. And so
And really, we're not
what's on
discussing-
what's on the agenda tonight is the bill list, and we're paying the bill. So we don't have an item for action for the board about whether or not we're utilizing this, that is service or not. So just.
So to understand this
transitioning.
Why don't we
After
if you want a new business item to like take up this discussing this application, either, I guess it would be in curriculum or policy and school security, policy and school security. Like, in schools, in policy and school security. So why don't we, it's like, because I don't think that this is not the forum for the debate that I think we're trying to have here. But I think you're certainly open to requesting a new business that we take up that discussion.
Okay, I'll request it for the next one.
And then do you want to remind everybody about the procedure we have in place that if they're not on the committee, that they can do?
Right, so that anybody who's not on a committee, just as a reminder, especially for our new board members, if you have a topic that you want to have brought up during a certain committee meeting, you can raise it during new business during the meeting, or at any other time, you can just submit that request. There's a like a little spreadsheet that goes, like a Google form that goes to the committee chairperson to add it to the agenda. So, anyway, sorry, I'm sort of trying to cut off discussion on something that isn't what we're actually doing.
Something new that came
Right.
up today, so.
Yep, no, I get it, but we were voting to approve the monthly bills lists for expenses that we've already incurred. Any other discussion on agenda items 12.1 through 15.16? Seeing no further discussion, all in favor?
I have, okay, so we're going for 13.2, I'm gonna vote no on 0152. For the first reading.
All right, we're gonna have to listen to that. You're voting no on 015, 12 point,
13.2.
13.2. Yeah.
0152.
Vote on a line item.
You just,
So everything else is okay.
just 13,
Sorry,
you're voting no on,
13.2 and 13.1, I'm gonna abstain on 0141.
so just point of order to clarify, you're voting yes, no, or abstain on the entirety of 13.1.
I'm voting no on the whole thing with the exception of 13.2 is no, and
Okay,
then 13.1 is an abstention.
perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm also abstaining from 12.1.
Yes.
Everything else.
Kim,
I am abstaining, I'm everything to 13.1 yes, but abstaining from 0141. And then everything 13.2, and I am a policy 0152 no.
I'm sorry, so abstaining 13.1, policy 0141,
Yep,
and no on 13.2, 0152?
correct.
so just to clarify, this is the same thing from Shelley. You are voting yes, no, or abstain on 13.1, not on a subset of 13.1.
Correct, just the
No,
one
so you
individual
can't,
is
you
abstaining.
can't go below, like, so 13.1, yes, no, or abstain.
Abstain.
Okay, so she's abstaining from 13.1, and 13.2, are you abstaining from that as well?
No,
You voted no.
no.
All right, Beth,
I am, sorry, voting yes on all except voting no on 14.1.
on 14.1.
Correct. And a little clarification.
Yes.
So if there was one that I want to abstain from, I have to abstain from the whole number. I'm ready to use that. Okay.
You could abstain just like a policy, right?
You can abstain from a line item on the agenda. So 13.1, 13.2, 13.3, not below that. So not for one policy within 13.1.
Okay, then for, I guess for the second reading, 13.1, I will abstain. From 13.2, I will abstain. And then when it comes to village list, I will vote.
All or nothing.
Yes or no? or abstain on 15.12?
Am I allowed to do that because there's a credit towards me on the bills?
You can abstain.
That
Or-
I'm abstaining from.
I mean, you can do, actually, I take that back. You
I
can vote
can.
yes, no, or abstain on 15.12, on any.
Okay, and I will abstain from as well.
Nicole's abstaining on 15.12. Any other
Tara.
votes?
Well, question, to that point, I mean, this happens a lot where a check is issued for a board member for whatever reason. I don't recall where a board member had to abstain from the whole bills list.
Yeah.
I don't know, clarification, that's all.
That's my understanding as well, is that you have to abstain. The line item itself is the entirety of the bills list, where if we're in a situation where a lot of board members are voting no or abstaining on the bills list, it's something that
Should
probably
we
be
be-
readdressed.
Should we be voting yes on checks that are issued to ourselves?
You can. She's legally being reimbursed, there's no conflict. That's my.
My understanding is
Okay.
that too.
Okay, thank you.
It has come up, I think, in the travel approval,
Request.
like ahead of time, like that line item of.
Right, so 1511 is the training and travel requests, and frequently we see board members abstaining from that whole line item when they're part of the, when they're being approved. I don't think they're legally required to abstain, but I think that oftentimes, sometimes they do.
Like ahead of time.
So-
You spend the money, not after the money's been spent.
And as long as that proposal is not for either yourself or a raise or something, or a family member who's in the district or anything like that.
Okay, so have we captured all of the votes?
No, because I have to abstain on 15.11 for for training that is going to the board to be approved.
All right, Tara's abstaining from 1511, and yes to everything else, or? Okay.
So I will say, if you're doing this methodology with the bills, you could end up having the bills not due. There's a high case where.
There's a lot of bills.
Right.
No, I'm just saying, if you have to abstain because you're getting, you don't have to abstain.
Well, an abstention is not a no, an abstention is a non-vote. So typically, if you had everyone present, it would be a majority of those present that would pass the bill list.
Correct.
I'm just saying, the policy we're following, we might end up ever with a case where we don't vote to pay bills, right? That's not gonna happen.
It doesn't seem like it's gonna happen tonight.
Well, it's not gonna happen.
So if you wanna bring up a new business item for policy to talk about the line item voting.
Dan, you're gonna be one busy chair this year.
Okay, are we good? Has everyone's votes been tallied? Everyone can vote? All right.
Before we move on, Ms. Gallo looking at it like maybe she may want
No, I'm good, I'm good. I just wanted to, I was a little confused first, thank you for not abstaining. It was a little confusing. A lot of things to prove all at once, and there's so many moving parts.
True. Okay, so I'm taking it that the motion did everything.
Everything passed.
Thank you. Okay. All right, now is the opportunity for old and new business. Does anyone have any old or new business they want to discuss? Yes.
So I just want clarification on the smart. So the smart pass, when kids leave the school, there's no way through that app that they can be tracked from our authorities.
They're all.
So it's tracked while in school. It's not an option to opt out, I would say.
So they have an option to use smart pass just for district issued Chrome, they don't have to.
No, okay.
So everybody has to Chrome and
Does that mean they have to take the trouble with them, like the bathroom, like,
Yeah.
no, just they check everything, says I'm going
She had it right.
and it's the time, okay.
But that makes sense, they have to have a manual ID and not have a phone.
have their ID.
My understanding is the phone is really being used for convenience for the kids. They do not need to have the app on the phone. They can already check out to do the various things that is being discussed, whether it's to go to the restroom, the nurse's office, the library, their counselor's office, either through their Chromebook or by making a separate request, and they can use their card. So if a parent was not comfortable with having their child use their phone as a mechanism for that, they don't have to. All of that being said, I do agree that there should have been some transparency to the public, specifically the parents, that this is something that's being done. Then the parents would have had the option of deciding whether they wanted their child to download the app onto their phones or not. Personally, I think the app is fine. I do think, though, that I would have liked to advise that our children in schools were going to be told they're only given a certain amount of time to go to the restroom and track via this type of tool. I would have liked to have known that, and I think the public should have, or at least the parents should have the ability to know that and determine how best for their children to be tracked in that mechanism. But it is for school safety for the kids.
Can I say the other concept that I was thinking too, in a situation like this, that's a good point, instead of it just being mapped out to everybody without parents aware, maybe more so to email the parents to opt in.
Yep.
More so, like, I kind of feel that everything's already put on the parents and put on the kids at all times, and then we have to kind of opt out or say, oh, that's not a good idea. It should be more of like, this is where we want to roll out, this is why we want to roll out, here's our pros, here's our cons, like to get some feedback on it. If you're not interested, don't want to be, can we opt out of this? Sorry, can we just make it an opt-in?
Yeah.
More so that everybody is being included under one umbrella.
Rob, can I request that, I do know that this was presented by Mr. Bender at a board meeting, but maybe just suggest that an email go out to the parents telling them what month that it was given out to the public, and maybe just some explanation of what it is.
Well, how about board members? I'm sitting here and it's being brought up. It's in the bills list. It's being brought up. You're reading letters into public notice, and I don't have children in the district. So I did not get an email from as the community did, as parents. And there's probably other board members sitting here. So I'm wondering what is this? What's now I'm questions coming up. So is there, I know it's not, we don't want to micromanage it, but I think it would have been nice to know that the board got that email. I don't even know what you're all talking about. I hear what you're saying, your explanations, but I hear the concerns, and I hear Beth saying security, she's saying opt-in. We just need to be on the same page. It's effective communication. Transparency, easy breezy. I would have liked to have gotten as a board member a heads up saying, this is what this is. Thank you.
Again, I think that's something we should try to work on. I was just thinking of the saying that more literature cannot create one article on it because it was a massive enterprise and it really caused a lot of.
From SmartPass?
Yeah.
SmartPass was the reason?
Security.
It was not, I just read the article. It's not from SmartPass.
Because of the whole underlying, because.
No, please answer my question. SmartPass. That's what, okay.
It was similar third party data company, similar to like a
This also, to me, this discussion falls into there's 100 things on that bills list. And our job is not to run the district. So it feels like what we're doing now is we're second guessing how the district is being run in this part. And we can't be asked to, on every decision that the administration makes, to check it with the board first.
That's a fair comment also. So, I mean, lots of opinions, lots of discussion on this topic. We're not taking, there's no action, I don't think there's action. I haven't heard a proposal for action except that an email from Jeff to, because I don't know, like
I
someone
don't
like him,
know.
I don't have kids in the industry.
I don't know what did it come out of.
So I don't know if anything's been communicated to the community about
I don't know kids either.
we can look into that communication part, right? But we don't have any action, we don't have any action on the table as far as I'm here. Other than, some concerns being raised for consideration in the future.
And what would an action, what would be the recommendation for an action? I mean, what would it, give me like an idea, sorry,
Well, so, I think to Brian's point, like, and this gets back into the sort of school ethics discussion, right? Our job as board members is not to like decide which hall pass monitoring program we use, right? We hire the administration to do that, just like we don't choose Aspen. Right? Aspen is also a third-party program where there's tons of student information, including how they did on all their tests and assignments. That is a third party that we use. So the school is filled with data management that we hire the administration to take on. So sort of Brian's point here is that like our job is not to like second guess any decision they make for tools or programs. But if we have, like, I think that a reasonable part of the discussion here is, from my opinion, is the communication and making sure that we're thinking about communication and transparency in everything we do as a board and as an administration. And but I didn't hear, like, there's not a specific action other than a recommendation to the administration to take care for that transparency.
The committee could discuss this and bring forward some future action, but yeah, nothing on the agenda to take action on it, but just sit, I guess, to Shelley there, right? For maybe to look at this down the road, whether or not we want to keep doing this, we want to investigate that further.
Yeah.
We're not
But
gonna-
again, doesn't it boil down to, we're not line item running the school? And it's not the board's job to, like, as Brian said, to minutia manage what we hire and pay and appoint administration to do.
I think this phrase is a little bit different though, because like the parents were invested in, the transparency.
Understood.
So this is different than.
No, understood, but it was an item that the administration put into place.
Right.
But it's been, there's nothing to vote on tonight about it. And we're just discussing it to discuss it, yes, but I don't think that we can make any changes.
So earlier you had said policy, is there an action for policy security?
I didn't hear anything that was being asked of policies and procedures. Nicole?
I mean, do you make a motion about that? Is that how it works?
No.
Well, you're asking for an action, yeah, I would like to have, I
Okay.
think would be something that should be looked at.
All right, so what I now I'm hearing is that. Policy and school security request that policy and school security look at the Smart Pass service and, assess whether there's any risk to school security risk based on that service.
And then moving forward, I agree with that, like transparency goes a long way. When you communicate with us ahead of time, it goes surprises and eliminates all these, confusion and complaints.
So I think we have our agenda item for policy and schools. All right, anybody else have any? All right, anybody else have any new business to raise? Okay, seeing no further new business to discuss, could I get a motion and a second to adopt resolution 012423-2 for executive session to discuss matters falling under categories 7 and 8 as reflected in the attached resolution. The board expects to be in executive session for approximately 1 hour, and upon return to public session, action will be taken. Could I have a motion, please? Motion by Tara, second by Shelley. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstentions, motion carries. Move to executive session. Thank you. All right, I think we need a roll call vote.
Mrs. Benoni?
Yes.
Mr. Chapman?
Yes.
Mrs. Crisalovo?
Yes.
Mr. Barbanesh?
Yes.
Mrs. Gallo?
Yes.
You might want to stay from 20.2 because you weren't here for the November.
Abstain.
So yes for 20.1 and abstain for 20.2.
Ms. Hinz?
Yes.
Mr. Kirschberger?
Yes.
Ms. Cochran?
Yes to 20.1 and abstain on 20.2.
Mr. Wheeler?
Yes.
Mrs. Salino?
On 20.1, I need to abstain from 8.2.8, and then yes to 20.2.
So again, I believe you're staying on 20.1.
Well, that's what I just asked, but this is personnel.
Yes, so I think because those are numbered items, those are individual
Yeah.
numbered items in the personnel agenda that you.
And I have, there's a conflict.
What's the number?
8.2.8.
8.2.8. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Stanton? Ms. Deotta?
Yes.
Motion carries. Can I have a motion and a second to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Motion by Shelley, second by Jess. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? We are adjourned.